Hi, this weekend I watched Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, the second in the Fantastic Beasts series, acting as a prequel to the Harry Potter fantasy adventures. I watched the first film, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, when it was released 10 years ago, but I put off watching the further two films because I'd been very unimpressed by the first film. I found it to be very much ideas in search of a story, world building without a plot to hang it on. And in rewatching the first film, I found I enjoyed it a great deal more. It does have much more of a structure and much more of an overall story than I remembered. So I carried on and watched the second film and found it to be very much the way that I remembered the first. The plot follows the rise of Gellert Grindelwald, the wizard equivalent of Hitler, who is determined to allow wizards to dominate the world and overthrow the control of non-wizarding people. Along the way, we have our main character, Newt Scamander, a expert in magical creatures, who is enlisted by Albus Dumbledore, played by Jude Law, to investigate Grindelwald's activities in Paris, and teams up with various characters from the first film, including an American aura, a kind of wizard police officer, her sister, and the non-magic person who accidentally got involved with the plot in the first movie. It's very hard to recount the story because even as I was watching it, it was evaporating from my mind. And once the end credits were rolling, I was struggling to remember what the plot of the movie was. I found it to be very weak, shambolic, far more interested in world building and wizarding mythology than in actually telling any kind of coherent story. Um, it has a gigantic cast, which helps to dissolve focus and make it harder to follow. Eddie Redmayne is still a lot wetter than he should be as Scamander. I think Johnny Depp as Grindelwald is much more restrained than usual, although someone still is unable to restrain him from the wig box. Um, Many of the supporting roles are, I think, adequate. Did think that Jude Law as Dumbledore was good casting, and although he doesn't really resemble Michael Gambon or Richard Harris in any way, he does convey the same type of personality, that very controlled and confident, but supportive and kindly figure. And seeing him as a notional younger person was a refreshing change. But there are still huge holes in the plot. The Muggle character of Jacob Kowalski, a baker who accidentally gets involved in the plot of the first movie, is brought back with minimal explanation. The behavior of his magical girlfriend, um, Queenie Goldstein, is very hard to follow. How she's very easily manipulated into joining Grindelwald's crusade, and how Grindelwald lies to his followers about how he simply wants freedom, but is very blunt when they're not listening about how he actually seeks to rule the world and reduce non-magical people to mere cattle. It's a real mess. Apparently, there's a version that's 15 minutes longer, which has greater clarity, which has more material that clarifies the story. But as I was reading about this, the same article brought up the fact that Warner Brothers around the same time cut half an hour out of Batman vs Superman, rendering the film supposedly incoherent. I've seen both versions of Batman vs Superman, and they're both dreadful. So I struggle to see how just 15 minutes more to Crimes of Grindelwald will improve the film particularly or make it any more engaging or coherent. There are some good elements. It's very competently made. The effects are mostly good. As I say, Depp's performance is unusually restrained for him, and Law is likable. Um, it's just the script and it's the lack of focus, and it's again the issue of, is there a need to tell this story? We know that Grindelwald is defeated. We know that how various characters carry on with their lives. Is there a compelling reason for this story to be told? At the time, the intention was that the Fantastic Beasts series would run to 5 pictures, telling a roughly an 18-year story up to the final defeat of Grindelwald in 1945, around the end of the Second World War. The reception this movie had led to the complete rethinking of that. We had only a single further film. J.K. Rowling's script was now to be a collaboration with Steve Kloves, who had written most of the Harry Potter films. And it was decided that based on this movie, there wasn't going to be 5 movies worth of material. I very much with the consensus on that score that this is really not good enough and can't support the very ambitious and greedy plans to extend this far beyond its life.